Hello, everybody. Welcome to the live office hours for the School of Sweet Georgia for August. My name is Felicia from Sweet Georgia, and we come here every month, the last Thursday of every month, to talk about all of the things that have been happening inside the School of Sweet Georgia, catch everybody up on what's been happening, what new courses are coming, what people have been making, all these kinds of things. So thank you so much for being here today. We have a lot of things to share with you, a lot of things to talk about. You might have seen on the countdown that there was like a little bit of a photo. There was a snapshot of the double weave blanket that was on the loom. So maybe what I want to do is maybe share a little bit about the double weave blanket with you guys today. I'm going to share a little bit about the Fleece class that recently launched, and then tell you a little bit about what's going to be happening for the next couple of months. We have a lot of things planned. So if this is your first time visiting the live office hours, welcome. This is a really fun thing to do every month, and it's a nice way to connect and see you guys all in the chat. It's nice to see everybody here and all of this. Fantastic. Wonderful. Okay, so let's talk about the first thing. The first thing that is going on is that the double weave class is basically almost done filming. We have another thing that we have to film at the end of next week, which is basically the conclusion to this course. And so I can give you a sneak peek of the blanket that has come off of the loom. So this is the double weave blanket that I've been weaving. It actually hasn't taken that long to weave. Like to sit down at the loom and to actually weave this blanket did not take very long at all. It's really just, it's taken a bit of time because, you know, life. And we've been just doing a lot of things and busy with a lot of stuff. But you can see this is the double weave blanket. This is how wide it was on the loom. So it was 26 inches wide, well, 25 inches wide, 24 inches wide on the loom. It's a 26-inch wide weaving width on the loom, so it's a baby wolf that I made it on. Then you can, ta-da, open it and it becomes double the width. So this is the full width of the blanket. This hasn't been washed or anything like that yet. I basically cut it off the loom and then I tied fringe on to the end. So I basically took 4 ends and then did an overhand knot to snug it up near the end to create this fringe. So I'm pretty happy with this. I don't think I need to do twisted fringe to set and finish this. I quite like it the way it is, but I am going to wet finish this, press it, and then all of this, I hope that it will still stay relatively not felted. This yarn that we used, this is BFL and Silk Fine. So BFL will felt if you just keep working at it. It does felt, you know, just keep agitating, keep mushing it around, and it will eventually felt. So I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to wet finish this quite gently. But you can see, like, I do enjoy the drape of this blanket. I think it's lovely. It worked out great. I love the colors. The colors are a thing that we're going to make into a kit. So if you want to make a blanket like this with these colors, then we will have these colors available. These colors are somewhat, well, they're new colors. They're brand new colors that we created for this blanket. So I am quite excited about the blanket project. I love how it all came together. Now, one thing that I do need to show you guys up close, and you guys are going to get the first sneak peek at this, but you can see this is the fold line. And hopefully, you can see maybe there's like a tiny little bit of a ridge on that fold line. I imagine that when I wet finish this, this is going to all come out and it will be okay. Now, one thing that is super challenging that I will definitely film and talk about is the fact that with the baby wolf loom that I was using, the shed that's created with that double weave project was not super big. And so I'm constantly checking as I'm weaving this cloth to make sure that the upper and lower layers can separate. So like you guys saw, I was able to open this blanket out completely. It's completely unfolded. There's no like top layer and bottom layer accidentally merging into each other or anything like that. There's none of those kinds of errors. However, I can only see what's happening on the top layer of my cloth. I can't see what's happening on the bottom layer of the cloth. And so at one point in time, early on in weaving this blanket, I looked underneath and there was these big long floats that were happening on the bottom of the shed. So the bottom layer of the cloth had big long floats. And that is because as I was weaving that bottom layer, the shuttle was dipping down underneath the shed altogether and skipping a whole bunch of threads. And it happened throughout the blanket. So you guys, I'm going to show you. This is what it ended up looking like on the bottom in some cases. Like in some cases, it was great. This is the bottom side of the cloth. In some cases, it was great. But in some cases, it was not good. So you can see here, these are the big long floats. Oh yes, I know, sobbing, crying. It was not good. So in any case, this is what it looks like on one side. Okay, when you flip it over, that's what it looks like on the other side. So it just looks like, how come there's two weft picks that are next to each other? And it's just because the interlacement isn't happening anymore. So Dory's asking, how do you fix that? And I am going to demonstrate this in a video, but basically all I do is I just take the same colored yarn as this. So I would take this sort of, this kind of cayenne kind of color, and I would take a length of it, maybe about, you guys can't see my hands on here, maybe about so long, like that. And I would needle weave this in with a little needle, and basically weave it into the place where it's supposed to be. So this thread here, this weft pick, is supposed to interlace between these weft ends right here, right? You can see that. So I would just take an extra piece of yarn with a needle and needle weave into that little section to make that all fixed up. And then I can basically cut this thread and then just trim it to the ends and basically have the two things overlapped. So it's almost like you were fixing a broken weft thread in here. So, you know, I would go and I'd have to do that for a number of these little spots. There's another one here. I did fix one and it looks fine. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. But I do love it. It's great. It's big. Now, if you wanted to prevent this, you would just have to be super, super, super careful about making sure that you don't have any skips on the bottom end of your cloth. And so there's different ways that you can fix this. You could either hold a mirror underneath your cloth so that you can look under. You could take your camera phone and you could check. But I did notice that while I was weaving this blanket, there was just a lot of stopping and checking and stopping and checking and unweaving, because I would see a float and then I would have to unweave. Yeah, so Laughing Coyote's asking me, do you go back and needle weave? Yes, you go back and you needle weave all of those little bits in. And then when you wet finish it, they will all disappear and it will be great. So that is that. I'm really excited for this class to come out. It is, since we're still just finishing up the filming part of it, it's not going to go to the editing process until a little bit later in this fall. And Leah's going to edit this and then it'll come out, I think it's November, I think is when it's scheduled for. And then what we would like to do is, starting in January, we want to do a study group on weaving double weave. And so we'll make a blanket together or some kind of a double weave project, whatever you want. We also have a double weave class using rigid Huddle that we are going to be filming with Amanda Wood, and that's going to come out as well. So the idea with the January weaving study group is that it's going to be double weave, and either you do double weave on a 4-shaft loom like I have, or you can do double weave on a rigid Huddle loom like Amanda is going to show you. And so there's all of these different ways that you can do double weave. Doesn't matter what kind of equipment you have, it just matters that we're going to do 2 layers of cloth. So excited about that. So that's the blanket. I'm going to fix it up, I'll film it, and then wet finish it, measure it before and after, all of those things, and write the pattern for it, and it will be good to go. Double weave is scheduled to go out December 14th. Thank you so much, Greta. Fantastic. So maybe what I will show you guys is, let's talk a little bit about the class that just recently launched, the most recent class. And so that is this one here. That is the Working from Fleece class with Kim McKenna. Now, this is a class that we've mentioned before, that this was requested by the members of the school. We got so many requests to do something about raw fleece, working from raw fleece. And so we invited Kim to come and share with us how she does the washing of raw fleece. How do you take raw fleece? How do you wash it? Then how do you process it? What are the different ways that you can process it? Why would you do it this way? Why would you do it that way? All of these kinds of things. So it is a fantastic class. I don't know if you guys know, but Kim, she judges fleeces, so that was part of her experience, is having a ton of experience in looking at a lot of different sheep breeds, a lot of different fleeces, being able to make judgments about them. And so this is one of the most helpful parts of the video I found, is that she brought 3 fleeces to show, but one of them was just we'd spread all of this fleece out on the table, and then just going through and saying, well, this part came from the leg, or this part came from the neck, this part came from the back, talking about what the characteristics of all of those fibers are from the different parts of the animal, and how they're different, and how you might treat them differently, process them differently, use them for different kinds of projects. That was very, very important. But also what even to look for with those fibers. So like looking up close, like looking at the sheen and looking at the crimp, you know, testing it to see if it was sound, like looking for a snapping sound when you are looking at the fiber, all of these things. It's a really, really fantastic class. Greta and I were very, very lucky that we had the opportunity to learn from Kim in person her technique for washing the fleece. And so we had done it earlier this year. She shows a technique that's a very, very straightforward method for washing raw fleece. So Greta and I did it in person, but she redid the whole process on camera for us. And so you guys will all get to see the exact same thing that we got to see. It is fantastic. So you can see here how light and fluffy, how light and fluffy all of that fiber becomes after it's been washed. She shows 2 different techniques. One is soaking the fleece, the raw fleece, in order to get all of the oil and grease and all that kind of stuff out. There was another method that she showed where she was washing it on a bar of soap, and that was very much inspired by a technique that Margaret Stove used to, that she taught about how to scour very, very, very fine merino wool, just staple length by staple length, just a little bit at a time using a bar of soap. And so Kim demonstrated that as well. So what we are going to do is, because we would like everybody to participate in this and everybody to give this a try. The method is awesome. Just using 100 grams of raw fleece, like 4 ounces of raw fleece. We encourage you guys to participate in a study group that we're going to put together for October. And really all it is we're going to wash 100 grams of fleece together and see what we can do with it. How are we going to process it? All of that kind of stuff, just to get you through the steps of how to wash fleece. And then you can break down a bigger fleece into smaller projects so that it's not so overwhelming. Like, I have purchased fleece before, and you get 3 or 4 pounds. There's a lot of fleece. And then you wonder, what am I going to do with all of this? How am I going to process it all? How am I going to wash it all? And the idea that Kim shares is very much that you don't have to do it all at one time. You can do it chunk by chunk, piece by piece, and work through it. And that really makes it much more manageable. So I hope that you guys will come and participate in this October study group. I'm going to share a few more photos from the class because it was so good. But yes. So Greta doesn't have to use a whole fleece, get a whole fleece at the she can use the whole thing. So here are some just up close photos where we were looking at the Cordale fiber that Kim brought, but you can just see the crimp on this fiber. It's just so pretty. I think anybody who is a spinner would just see this and just, you can feel it almost like stretching between your fingers, and you just imagine what that would feel like as you were to spin it. The Cordale that she worked with was absolutely beautiful. Yeah. It's lovely. Fantastic. Yes, Greta's mentioning that we have the upcoming fleece auction happening September 10th in the Lower Mainland here. So if you're in the Lower Mainland and you would like to get a raw fleece for yourself, you can come and do that. Here's another photo from the washing of the fleece. And so Kim's method uses 3 washes in a line. And so you can see this big jar. This is clear water. And this first jar, this is how much dirt and grease comes out of the first washing of the fleece. This is how much comes out of the second, and this is how much comes out of the third. And by the third, you can compare these two. They're just very, very close. It's very clean by the end of the process. So it's really great. I hope you guys will do it. And the last photo is taking a lot of this washed fleece and then preparing it in different ways. And so in this case, we've created this, Kim's pulled a sliver, just a beautiful combed preparation that can be used to spin worsted yarn. It's so nice. So Dominique's like it. So I'm not the only one who's obsessed with crimp. Yeah, it's just, I don't know, it makes you all tingly to look at it and just think, oh, what would this feel like? Okay, that's good. The next one I wanted to share with you guys is this is one that we just filmed maybe 2 weeks ago at the studio. And this one is with Caitlin French. So Caitlin, you guys hopefully will know, she's taught the natural dye basics class. She also taught the eco printing class, and she also taught the class that's about growing your own natural dye garden. Now, the reason why this one was so interesting to me was because it's kind of like the follow-up to growing your own natural dye garden. At least here in the Lower Mainland, it appears that Japanese indigo is relatively easy to grow here. I'm not sure what the growing region actually is, so I don't know where in the world it would grow the best, but it seems pretty hardy and easy to grow here. I did not do very well with my seedlings this year. They all died. The first batch died in sort of like a cold snap, and then the second batch that I started died when there was a heat wave. So I did not grow any indigo this year. However, now that I know how to dye with the fresh leaf indigo, I'm going to try again next year. But you can see these are the indigo leaves that Caitlin grew in her garden, and you can learn about how she actually grows all this stuff in that growing the natural dye garden class. But she grew all these, and then she brought it to the studio and then taught us basically how to dye with this fresh leaf indigo. It is so cool. And the colors that come out of it are very different from the indigo, where you have like a vat that is, you know, the dipping into the indigo vat and the oxidizing, all that kind of stuff. That kind of indigo feels more like cobalt. It feels more like a cool blue. But you can see here, the blues that come out of the fresh indigo are like aqua colored, they're sea foam, they are just this robin's egg blue color that are just so beautiful. And so you can see what it looks like, the yarn inside the indigo dye bath, I guess, how green and fresh it looks. And then once it comes out, again, it does change color and become this gorgeous aqua color. And so this class is being edited right now, and it is going to come out September 14th. So just a couple of weeks, I wanted to kind of like give you a preview of all of that. So I hope that you guys will check that one out as well. Yeah, dyeing with fresh indigo, very easy. Yeah, Greta watched. Greta was there with me. We were working on that, filming together, and yeah. So now we just have to become better gardeners, I think, is what the issue is. I don't know who can teach us to become better gardeners. Yes. Now, we have basically just finished doing, well, no, we're almost at the end of the MCAL, the Sweet Georgia Mystery Knit Along. And so I don't know if you guys have been participating in the forums at all or checking out the forums, but if you go to the section of the SOS forums where they're talking about the Mystery Knit Along, there are some gorgeous photos about what people are making. So this is this mystery shawl where every week there's a new clue giving you instructions to do something different with your shawl. And these shawls are coming together. They're great. But the next or the last clue launches next Tuesday, and then the MCAL will be finished. And then hopefully we'll be seeing a lot of finished shawls. But then we were thinking, well, what do we want to do in September? What do we want to make in September? And so Vicky had this fantastic idea about doing a thing that we are going to be calling the Great Mini Skein Stashdown. There we go. The Great Mini Skein Stashdown. So the idea here is, from the last month's live office hours, I was showing all of the little swatches and all of the tiny little color samples that people have been dyeing because they've been making these color triangles as part of the dyeing study group. These mini skeins on screen here, these are the mini skeins that were dyed for Caitlin's natural dye class that we did last year. And I can imagine that many of us who are in the school either making these mini skeins, dyeing all these mini skeins, spinning mini skeins, spinning little samples of different yarns. I can imagine we have a lot of mini skeins lying around. And so the challenge of September will basically be, what can we make with all these mini skeins so that they don't all just sit there or hang there or go to waste? Like, we can make something with all of these beautiful colors in combination with each other. And so Vicky has started a thread. You guys can go find the thread in the forums. I believe it's under the random chat section, but you guys can just search for mini skein Stashdown. And people have already started to post ideas about what we can do with mini skeins. Sweet Georgia, what we did is we have a couple of patterns that we released for Advent a couple of years ago that were using mini skeins. And we've released those and made those available and free for SOS members. So you can go check those out as well. But the Advent patterns are a great way to use mini skeins as well, because it's just a little bit of this, a little bit of that, mix it all up. Charlotte's posted tons of ideas. There's crochet ideas as well. There's weaving ideas. There's knitting ideas. Lots of things that you guys can do. So I'm really excited to see what happens in this thread and all of the different ideas that come out of that. So the next thing we want to share and talk about is what's happening. Speaking of September, September's theme is going to be mini skein Stashdown. The other things that are happening in September, normally on Mondays, every other Monday, so starting on the first and third Monday, we have knitting meetups on Zoom, and those happen with Robin. She's one of our moderators in the school forums. On Saturdays, we have a meetup as well, and that's with Vicky, who's in the forums right now. She's in the chat right now, but she is also one of the moderators in the forums. And so I know that the Monday meetup says knitting and the Saturday meetup says spinning and weaving, but really you can bring whatever project you want to either meetup. Bring whatever you want. Really, it's just come and chat and bring your project, share whatever it is you're working on. It's great. So those are the two Zoom meetups that we do. We also do a meetup on the second Monday of every month. So Vicky and myself, we get on and we do a very casual, it's a very casual meetup on Zoom. And it's really just to give you a little bit of an orientation around the school, around the website, around the community forums. If this is your first time joining the school, or you need kind of a refresher about how to navigate the school, it's also an opportunity for you to directly ask me or Vicky any questions about the website, all of that kind of stuff. So we are available on the second Monday of every month to do that. And then you can see the last Thursday of every month is exactly this, is the live office hours that we do. We have a knit night that happens at the studio in Vancouver, and that happens with Charlotte. And I did put on 2 additional things, and one of them is on Fridays, the second Friday of every month. I've been doing a live stream on YouTube, a public live stream, and it's kind of like the Taking Back Friday videos, but a live version of that. It just so happens that this September, that live stream lands on the same date as Sweet Georgia's anniversary. So Sweet Georgia was founded 2005, September 9th. It was the day that we put, that I put 3 skeins of yarn up on Etsy for sale. That was the day that it happened. And I cannot believe that it is 17 years later. And so on that 9th, September the 9th, we're going to do some sort of a live stream that's an anniversary kind of celebration, where hopefully I'll be able to share a little bit more about what we're doing at the studio, what we have planned, what's coming, and also introduce you guys to some of the people who are here at the studio, some people on the team. I think that would be really super fun as well. So that's the anniversary live stream. It's not specifically a school thing, but if you'd like to participate, that's there. And finally, if you happen to be in the Lower Mainland, you hopefully will know that Knit City is the fiber festival that happens in Vancouver every year. It happens, now it's been moved to September 24th and 25th, and it happens at the P&E Forum. And so we definitely are going to be hosting a big booth. So it is our original big 10 by 40 size booth. So we'll have a lot of yarn there, a lot of tools, a lot of supplies. We'll even be bringing like Ashford equipment. We'll be bringing weaving and spinning equipment, all of that kind of stuff. And the other thing that we have been doing over the years, we didn't do it last year because of, worldwide events, but we are going to be going back to hosting the lounge that happens at Knit City. And so this lounge is a 60 by 60 foot space. Yeah, I'm just trying to remember if that's correct. Yeah, 60 by 60. And it is like an area where you can come and stop and eat lunch and hang out and share what you've made, all that kind of stuff. But we're also going to use that space to host some demonstrations and some meetups. So any member of the school, you guys are welcome to come and meet with the spinning instructors. We're going to do that, I think, on Sunday morning. Saturday morning, I'm going to host a little bit of a weaving meetup. Saturday afternoon, there's going to be a blending board and carding demo. And then Sunday afternoon, there's going to be sort of knitting and crochet meetup. So just come and hang out and then hopefully meet some other people from the school in real life. So I'm very excited about that. I'm going to be there in the lounge the whole time. Greta is going to be there in the lounge. And I believe there's some members who've already said that they're going to come and be in the lounge. It's going to be it's going to be good. So really, really excited about all of that happening. Normally, I only tell you about like 1 month at a time, but because we have a lot of things coming up that I want you guys to know about, sort of in the back of your mind, I'm going to share with you a little bit more about October. And that October, the theme is Socktober every year. October is always Socktober. And we'll be doing that Fleece study group. So you can see this green bar here. This is the Working from Fleece study group. And we're also going to try something new this year, and this is that spinning summit. And so what we're hoping to do is we're going to post a new video every day on YouTube with instructors that have created courses for the School of Sweet Georgia. And there's going to be like a little spinning video every day that week. So very excited about that. The last video, I think the Friday video, my goal is to have spun some yarn that I will have knit using the sock knitting machine into hand-spun socks. Hand-spun, hand-cranked socks. That is the goal. So that's the video that's planned for that Friday, October the 7th. So that's all the things that have been coming up. So the next thing that we should talk about is what has been happening in the school right now. And so that is that the Rigid Huddle study group that's been going on for all of August is about to complete. It's the finale meeting is going to be tomorrow, Friday at 11 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Hi, Pearl. Nice to see you too. Yeah, and it's gonna be good. So basically, this study group has been happening all of August with Amanda Wood, and lots of people have been participating by first making their color and weave Gamp. So that's kind of like the test project where you warp up your rigid Huddle loom with a bunch of different colors, different sequences, and then as you weave this, you get to see all the different patterns that come out of this, all the different color and weave patterns. And then based on the pattern, then you extrapolate that out and design your own project. So I wanted to share a couple of the things that people have been posting in the forums about their progress and things like that. But I imagine that tomorrow during the finale, everything is going to kind of come out and people will show other things that they've been working on and things like that. So the first one that I wanted to share with you guys is Vickys Camp. This is really cool. I always encourage you guys to check out Vicky's threads when she does these kinds of projects, because she makes a lot of notes as she goes and shares a lot of great tips and things like that. And so one of the things that I learned is about the warping of the rigid Huddle loom. And so normally when you warp a rigid Huddle loom and you're using the direct warping method, you would take your yarn and you would go through the slots of your reed on the rigid Huddle loom, go around the back bar, then come back, and then you wind it around a warping peg. In this case, Vicky used a chair that was turned upside down and then used the legs of the chair in order to warp her loom. Now, splitting up, the different halves of the rigid heddle loom and then taking one half and then putting all of those warp threads on one leg, and then the other half taking all of those warp ends and then looping around the other chair leg. That allows you to kind of distribute and make those warp ends a little bit more consistent, because if all of the warp ends on a wide warp are coming down to one single warping peg, then the distance between the middle to the warping peg and the side to the warping peg are going to be different, and so the length of your warp ends will be inconsistent. So by splitting it up into two, hopefully overall you get a more consistent length. Now, the other thing that she's done is she's attached these little hair elastics to the tops of those two chair legs so that the warp ends are not popping off. And so that is a very, very clever trick that I thought was very cool. But you can see her lovely Gamp down here, and going from the light colored yellow all the way to this greeny color, and all of the mixing and blending that happens in the middle of all of this. So it's very, very cool. Next ones I want to show you. This is by Meredy. She is also working on her Gamp, and she said that she added 2 additional sections here. It's all coming together. She said the next time I'm with my loom, I will be able to start weaving. Now, the interesting thing here is that she said that she's been using pearl cotton, which is a mercerized cotton. It's a little bit shinier. You can even see a little bit that shine in the yarns here. It's going to be really, really lovely once it's all finished. It'll be really cool to see. So this is something that we try to reiterate for everybody as well, is that there's no such thing as being behind with any of this stuff. All of these study groups, all of the work, all of the weaving, all of the learning, it just happens on your own time, at your own pace. So you don't need to worry about keeping up with the weekly guidance or anything like that. There's no pressure on any of this. It's for you to work on when you can. So even if you start now and you go back and you look at the Rigid Heddle Study Group weaving guidance, you can start now. You don't have to think, oh, it's already passed, I can't participate anymore. All of the discussions, all of those kinds of things are still open, and people still continue to chat even after the study group is theoretically finished. This is another one. This is by Carol. And Carol, she says, I recently purchased an Ashford 24-inch rigid heddle loom with a stand. It's really nice. We have the exact same one at the studio here as well. And she said, this is going to be my first project on it. So congratulations, Carol. This is very exciting to put on your very, very first warp. And it's looking great here. So you can see her Gamp is coming together here, and she's using Just Beam for the yarn as well. And she added a section, she added an extra section of the light colors, 100% light, so that I guess she could see color blending in that section as well. Fantastic. Congratulations, Carol. This one is Lauren. This is her Gamp. Looks also like Just Beam, and this has come off of the loom. She said this is the third object that she's ever made on any loom. So congratulations. This is fantastic. And she has tried a lot of different things, learned a lot of things. She said, I tried 3 different bind off techniques, weaving in the ends, darning the ends, and then just leaving some selvage edges to see what happens in the wash. So she's kind of tried a number of different things for managing the weft ends as they've been going in. And once it's wet finished, I think that you can kind of reevaluate to see, well, which ones worked best for you? What would you do next time? She said that she thought the indirect method became a tangle, but luckily she had them tied off in sections and was able to untangle each section. So yeah, indirect warping is where you would wind your warp on a warping board and then put your warp ends onto the loom. And so that's demonstrated in our Rigid Heddle Weaving Basics class on the school as well. This is kind of my personal favorite technique for weaving on a rigid heddle loom, is to wind at a warping board. I know I used to think that winding on a warping board was a little bit cumbersome, but once I figured out where to put it on my wall and how high to position it, it's really become such a comfortable thing to be able to wind on a warping board. I feel like all of these things, once you get used to them, they will become, you'll become much more proficient at them. So winding a warp on a warping board, I have not become proficient at winding on a warping mill. So that is something I'd probably have to learn and tackle and improve on if I was going to do longer warps. But yeah, winding on a warping board is easier, and I feel like it's easier to manage the color changes on a warping board than it is to manage on a rigid Huddle loom. But you can do it both ways. Yes, there's a link where you guys talked about, Vicky saying, where you guys talked about hybrid warping too. I did also do hybrid warping, which is where you have your loom setup, and you, like direct warping, you're going through the slots of the reed, and then you're going around the back of the back bar of the loom. You come back out, and then rather than warping to a warping peg, you have a warping board that has been clamped to the table, and then you wind your warp on the warping board, take it off of the warping board, and then beam the loom. And so doing it in that way, doing it where you're winding it onto the loom at the same time as you are winding it onto the warping board, allows you to get a longer distance of like a longer length of warp. But I've done that too, and it's also felt a little bit cumbersome. So lots and lots of different ways of doing the same thing. So I encourage you guys to check all those out. The next one is by Victoria. And so Victoria, she did do a color gamp using Ven cotton. Ven cotton is an organic cotton that's made in the Netherlands, I believe. And the 8-2 cotton, she set it at 12.5 ends per inch. And so her gamp turned out really, really lovely. And then she used some of the patterns that were in her gamp in order to create this effect in some towels that she wove. So really, really lovely. It's a turquoise color, and I think it's a natural color. It's come out really, really well. And then so she says she's going to wet finish them, measure them, and see how those all go. But she did hem stitching on the ends of those hand woven towels. Yeah, beautiful. Here is another one that is 3 finished hand woven towels here. This one is woven by Beth, and she said she made the scrambled egg towels. So originally from the color and weave class, Amanda Wood, the instructor, she's designed a couple of patterns. One I believe was called fried egg, and the other one was called scrambled eggs. And because the colors were yellow and white, and so the scrambled eggs one was where the white and the yellow were mixed together throughout the towel, and the fried egg one was where they were separate. So there was more yellow and then more white, and so they were kept a little bit more distinct. So Beth has made the scrambled egg towels with red and beige in this case. And so she said that she's just been learning a lot. This looks like a Kromsky rigid Huddle loom here. She's using these lovely Glamacra Swedish shuttles. I've recently been trying these shuttles as well. Yeah, they're really, really, really nice. But just, yeah, looking at different ways of working with the selvages and changing colors at the selvages as well. And so now she has 3 towels that have been taken off the loom that she's going to hem and wet finish as well. So congratulations. Yeah, it's beautiful towels, everybody. Everybody's doing really, really great. So that is everyone's towels so far from the Rigid Huddle study group. Yeah, they're looking fantastic. I'm so glad. You know, one of the other things that I was really encouraged about was a lot of people were saying that this was the first time that they have worked with a Rigid Huddle loom, or they've done very few projects on a Rigid Huddle loom, and they're just getting started. They're just getting into it. And it's so great to see the progress and to hear about the progress that people have been making in something that is so fresh and so new. So yeah, Greta saying it's going to be great. The finale meetup tomorrow. Very encouraged to see and hear about how everybody's done. Now, one thing I want to share with you guys is this one. So we very frequently, I used to make a list of all of the threads that I encourage you to follow inside the school forums. Now, this is a thread that is actually just called, it was titled Hi Felicia. And so a member had written me a question about the multi-shaft weaving class. And the sampler that I put in that multi-shaft basics weaving class, it basically was a twill sampler. And so I said, okay, thread it this way, and then, you know, work the treadles this way. And she was asking, well, why is twill treadles 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 3 and 4, 4 and 1? And so then this thread has become a very extensive thread that has a ton of information in it about understanding weaving drafts. And so Laura Fry, our weaving instructor who's taught the intentional weaver, she taught magic in the water, she's come in and she's shared a ton of information on this particular thread about understanding weaving drafts. And I feel like this is one of the most important parts of weaving. It's one of the most important parts of just understanding how the cloth comes to be. I was telling Vicky this as well. Like when I first downloaded some weaving software to my computer, I downloaded Fiberworks. You can get demo versions of Fiberworks. You can get demo versions of Pixel Loom. There's like a number of different types of weaving software. You can get demos for all of them and try them out. And once I started to play with the weaving draft software, everything sort of started to make sense. It just opens up your eyes to, oh, this is how you could do this. This is how you go this. Yes. So Vicky's saying it's definitely a great thread to read through. Greta has actually linked to the thread here. You can just click on that. It'll take you there. But yeah, it's a very, very important information to learn. And so because it is so important, Laura Fry is going to come and present an entire lecture all about weaving drafts and drafting. So that's going to happen in November 2022. We're going to have a presentation from Laura Fry. But in the meantime, if you want to sort of follow along with this thread, you will, I guarantee you will learn lots and lots of things about weaving drafts and how they work and why they are the way they are, and all of that kind of stuff. So yes, we have November 2nd, the weaving draft lecture with Laura Fry, and then the beginning of October, beginning of September, we have another lecture with Laura Fry, and that one is going to be called the Goldilocks Zone. And that one is very much about like tension. It's about like not too much, not too small, not too big, just right. It's really about that idea about making everything just right and finding your place along that whole spectrum. So lots of good weaving content coming soon. Fantastic. So we're getting to the end of our day today. I have this lovely photo here of Katrina Stewart, who is one of our spinning instructors here. And this is Tabitha Hedrick. She is the design director at SweetGeorgia. And this photo, I really like this photo because this photo was taken in January 2019 when we were still back at our old studio, and we filmed a carding for color class with Katrina. It's really sweet. Tabitha happened to be in town because she was also filming stuff, and so we had the two of them together, and it's just a nice photo. I love it. In any case, what we wanted to do was, I think that you guys know that we do sort of like a back to school promotion around August, September for the school, encouraging people to join. This is a good time to join just because, September is the start of the school year. I feel quite refreshed. I've had a chance to sort of like parse through things, clean things up, and kind of like August is a good reset. September is a good time to like start going. And so what we would like is for you to encourage your friends to join as well. So one of the things we're doing is for this month's giveaway, we're going to do a Better with Friends giveaway. So the idea is basically that we're going to choose from all of the entries here. We're going to do a giveaway, and we'll pick 3 entries, and each person who gets picked will be able to name a friend, and we'll give that friend an all-access membership for a year. So basically, you can do the school with a friend, and then you guys can chat in the forums together, you can share your projects together, hopefully you can work through study groups and projects together. So if you know of anybody who you think might be interested in being a part of it, yeah, I encourage you guys to go back and do that. Yes, Becky, a whole year. It'll be great. Yeah, I mean, I can imagine if you brought a friend into the school and you guys work together through study group projects and all that kind of stuff, and to do that for a whole year. That would be super fun. I think it would be fun. So in any case, that giveaway is going to be open until the end of tonight, midnight tonight. So you guys can go to the link, and it's just a quick, like, 2 questions, what did you get out of today's session? What was helpful to you? What could we do next time? All of that kind of stuff. And then we'll do a draw for that. And then that is basically the end of that. And there is a sneak peek of what is coming soon. And those are all of our contact bits of details and information. So our two websites, SweetGeorgiaYarns.com, SchoolofSweetGeorgia.com. This is us on Instagram, SweetGeorgia and School of Sweet Georgia, and also our emails. Yeah. So lots and lots of things that are happening. Things are coming soon. It's going to be great. I'm very excited. September is coming so soon. Wonderful. Thank you guys so much for being here. It was nice to see you all in the chat today. I'm really excited to hopefully meet many of you guys at Knit City in September. So if you can be there, come say hi to me and say Greta. And yeah, it's fantastic. I'm so glad that you guys were all here today. Thank you for being here, and I will see you guys next month very soon. All right, bye for now. Thanks, everybody.